Then I read my first book by Frida McFadden. And wow, her books are like crack. Hi everyone, I'm Jay and welcome. I'm excited to talk about the books that I read this June, July, and August, and to quickly skim over the ones that didn't quite hit the mark. I am not a huge fan of using my brain cells in the summer, so I kept it nice and light for the most part, mostly thrillers and romances. And it was all about library books and KU Reads. I actually only own one of these books I'm going to talk about physically, which is kind of cool. Except didn't really help me knock stuff off my physical TBR. That's okay. Anyway, let's get into it. The first book I read this summer was The New Couple in 5B by Lisa Unger. We're following Rosie and Chad, who inherit a luxurious apartment in New York City, but things quickly go from feeling too good to be true to creepy town. Rosie grows wary of a suspicious doorman, the invasive building security, and the building's dark history. While not a new favorite, I did enjoy it. If you liked Lock Every Door by Riley Sager, I think this one will be right up your alley. The second book I read this summer was the perfect summer read, as it is titled, Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. This one's about Justin and Emma. They're unlucky in love and meet because of a Reddit thread and hatch this plan to date, break up, and break their curses in the process. Emma is a traveling nurse, so she's able to move to Justin's hometown, which is in Minnesota. She and her friend rent this dreamy little cottage on Lake Minnetonka, which seriously had me looking up homes in the area. It was just so idyllic. Their carefree fling is interrupted by real life, but it's so heartwarming and funny, and it easily became my favorite June read. And after loving Just for the Summer, I dove into Jimenez's backlist. So that included the other two books in the Part of Your World series, so Part of Your World and Yours Truly, and then her Friend Zone series, The Friend Zone, The Happy Ever After playlist, and Life's Too Short. Maybe I should have taken a bigger break between binging all of her books. Her reliance on misunderstandings or miscommunications driving the plot did start to grate on my nerves a little bit. But that said, Jimenez's humor, her characters' banter, the romance, and the vivid settings have made her an auto read for me going forward. The next book I read was The Summer Will Be Different by Carly Fortune. I actually didn't enjoy this one, so I'm just going to move on. The next book that I read was Murder Road by Simone St. James. We're in the 90s and newlyweds April and Eddie take a wrong turn on this deserted road. They pick up a hitchhiker and soon find themselves the suspects in a murder investigation. Murders along this road have been happening for years, and they now have to dig into the town's history to clear their names. As I mentioned in my fall favorites, I love this author, so it's no surprise I enjoyed this one. The next book I read, which brings us to number 10, thanks to Abby Jimenez, was She's Not Sorry by Mary Kubica. Megan, a single mom and an ICU nurse, becomes entangled in a mystery when a comatose woman believed to have jumped from a bridge arrives in her ward. A witness suggests that it may not have been a suicide attempt, which ends up putting Megan and her daughter in danger. This was a solid twisty thriller. Next, I read The End of Her by Sherry Lapina. This one wasn't for me. Moving along. The 12th book I read this summer was Bad Summer People by Emma Rosenblum. This was rich people, tennis, which I don't know why I love in a book, secrets, grudges, affairs, a dead body. This was a perfect summer read. I highly recommend as a light read, not to be taken too seriously. Then I went into The Paradise Problem by Christina Lauren. This was a fake marriage, forced proximity romance, and it was fine. Moving on. Then I read a book called Arthur by Mikhail Lindnerd. This one's about a stray dog who latches on to Mikhail while he's doing a jungle adventure race. And together they battle illness, injury, brutal terrain. The shape this poor dog was in when he was found was just heartbreaking. This was a true story, and the bond between man and dog in this book spoke to my inner dog lover and athlete. I recommend. Then I read Pretty Girls by Karen Slaughter. This one's about two estranged sisters who reunite after over 20 years estranged when one's husband is killed. As they dig into their dark past, disturbing secrets are revealed. Great writing in this one, but the content is intense. Check for triggers before diving in. Next, I read My Husband by Maud Ventura. This one's about a successful, outwardly perfect wife who is obsessed with her husband of 15 years. Desperate to prove to herself that his love matches her own, she constantly tests him, analyzing his every word, gesture, reaction. Behind her polished facade is an unrelenting need for reassurance, which leads her to manipulate their interactions in unsettling ways. The psychological tension made this a strangely addictive page turner, and it was my favorite July read. Highly recommend. Then I read The Book of Doors by Gareth Brown. This one's about Cassie, a bookseller. She discovers a magical book that opens any door, and this plunges her and her friend Izzy into danger. This book's comps were The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue and The Night Circus, both of which I loved, so it was a no-brainer I'd pick this one up. With elements of time travel and mystery, it was enjoyable, but a bit complex and did drag at times. Next, I read The Whispers by Ashley Audrain. A wealthy neighborhood party, a mom losing her temper, and a child's mysterious fall. That pretty much sums it up. Actually, what sums it up better, rich people drama with lots of speculation. I did prefer Audrain's book Push to this one, but it was still highly entertaining. Then I read One Perfect Couple by Ruth Ware. In this one, we're following Lila. She and her boyfriend join a reality TV show, but what starts as a competition in paradise turns into a survival story when the bodies begin to pile up. This was very entertaining and I recommend. Then I went straight into The It Girl by Ruth Ware. In this one, we're following Hannah. Her world is turned upside down when new evidence suggests that her friend's killer might have been innocent all along. In my opinion, One Perfect Couple was a little more entertaining and great for the summer, but this one held my interest too. And then I went into this book, Twisted Hate, which is the third book in the Twisted series. At this point, I am reading this series to knock them off my physical TBR. Didn't enjoy this one, but admittedly, I'm not a big enemies to lovers fan in general. So moving along. Then I read These Precious Days by Anne Patchett. I actually had a friend recommend me this stunning collection of essays, and I'm so glad that she did. They're about life and family and loss. This was by far my favorite August read. Grab your tissues, I 100% recommend. Then I read Anne Patchett's book State of Wonder. This one is about a research scientist who is sent to the Amazon to uncover the truth behind her colleague's death while he was researching a tribe that can conceive into their 60s, and this discovery could change Western civilization. The pacing on this one was slow, but the story was really immersive, and the writing more than made up for it. Recommend. And then I read Too Late by Colleen Hoover, which was recommended to me from a colleague. Colleen Hoover prefaces this one by saying it's not like her other books. It honestly reads like a mafia romance. I couldn't put it down. And this book brings me to 25. And it is One Star Romance by Laura Hankin. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. But moving along. Then I read my first book by Frida McFadden. And wow, her books are like crack. The Housemaid. I know I'm probably the last person on the planet to read this book, but bear with me. In it, we're following a woman with a criminal past who becomes a live-in housekeeper for the Winchesters, only to find herself trapped in a disturbing situation. This was so good, I went on to read the other two books in the Housemaid series. So books 27 and 28 were The Housemaid's Secret and The Housemaid is Watching, respectively. I will say this series went downhill a little bit for me as I went on, but it was still so entertaining. Her books are so addictive, and I will have some of the others in my September wrap up. So there you have it, my 2024 summer reads. I've really enjoyed the season, and not only have I been able to get in a lot of reading, I've been able to get outside into the great outdoors quite a lot. I'll leave you with my last adventure. Enjoy.